Hello. All right. Welcome, guys. This is our New Year's Day live stream. Kind of freestyle. I don't expect a lot of engagement today. I don't expect much today at all. But I'm here, so I'm sure people will pop in at some point. In terms of what do we got to talk about, the answer really is nothing. I'm almost done with Bleach and I have started Star Trek, the OG series. So we're going to talk about Star Trek. I've pretty much given up on Ben 10. But we're going to talk about a little bit of Star Trek. For like, I think I watched the first 7 or 8 episodes. Um, so we're gonna talk about that a little bit. Um, so how's everybody doing? Happy New Year's. Hopefully your 2023 is off to a grand start. Hopefully things are going pretty smooth. Unfortunately, the rap world lost Gangsta Boo. She passed away a few hours ago, about 4 hours ago. Unknown causes. Some people think that she overdosed on drugs. Gangsta Boo, not one of my favorite rappers. She's from Memphis, which already takes her off the board for me. But I know that there's a lot of Triple Six Mafia fans, and those that crowd. If you are a fan of 3 6 Mafia, Triple Six Mafia, Hypnotized Minds, I mean, you've been suffering the last couple of years. You know, there's a lot of people out of that camp been passing away. It's been very unfortunate. But happy, happy New Year for everybody involved. Um, can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me just fine? I know that sometimes the audio is a problem, but this time I was paying attention, so I I kind of made sure that the audio was on this time. I'm also gonna check it in a second to make sure it's. There we go. I think it's pretty. I think it's okay. Um, so unfortunately, we lost Gangsta Boo already, so that sucks. I mean, that's not a good way to start your 2023 if you're a rap fan. You've already lost a fairly influential Southern female rapper. Um, I didn't know that she started rapping when she was like a mid teenager. I think she started when she was like 15. Her first single came out when she was about 17. That's pretty crazy, you know. And I didn't have my ears to the street at the time, but she was somebody I definitely knew her name, so it was very unfortunate. Speaking of rap, also, I did watch Master P's response to Lil Romeo, and he did an hour long sit down with a guy named Nino Brown, and I got to tell you, it was probably one of the best breakdowns I had ever heard, and my respect for Master P doubled after listening to that. Like legit, he's a cool dude, man. You know, and I'm glad that my response wasn't just to just say Master P, fuck over everybody that he do business with, even though questions remain. The way he broke it down, the way he made it make sense. I mean, you see, and plus you just know how it is in the music business, and it's the same in all businesses. Most people don't make any money, you know, but it was very illuminating, I think, uh, in terms of how much money Little Romeo really made, even with Master P trying to help him out and helping him during the early part of his career. How he really didn't make that much money, you know, and he certainly didn't generate any. So I thought that was very illuminating. We might talk about a little bit about that today, depending on how we go and what direction we go in. So I'm just going to kind of throw some things out there. Maybe you guys are interested in something. Maybe you guys aren't. Um, I'm currently reading the Kick Ass comic book series written by Mark Miller and drawn by John Romita Jr. I have not read the comic book series. I've seen the movies. I haven't read the comic books. So I got the book series I'm going to read the book series, then probably watch the movies, and then one Sunday we're probably going to do a kick-ass stream where we're going to talk about the movies and the comics and the differences between the two and all that kind of stuff. I literally just started it today, so it ain't going to be today. I really only got like one book in to the, I think it's 32 volume. I don't want to say volumes. 32 books, I think. You know, it's 32 issues. Let's put it like that. Issues. Yeah, it's better. It's really 3 sort of books, though, 3 series. But we'll talk about that some other time. Also got Battle Angel Alita, the first manga series, the first 6 books in the manga series. So I'm guessing that is the basis for the movie. So probably this month we'll do Kick-Ass. Next month I should have caught up on Battle Angel Alita all the way through, and we'll do the manga and the movie on that too. You're gonna have to remind me on this because I'm barely through book 1. I'm like halfway through book 1 of Battle Angel Alita, and volume 1. You know, Tankobons is a little bit different in trades. It's a little different. But let's talk about some Star Trek. How many of you have watched the Star Trek original series? Because that's where I wanted to start. And the bootleg site that I watch it from started me out with the actual pilot. The pilot was called The Cage, and it featured Captain Christopher Pike. Now, if I remember correctly, Pike comes up later in the Star Trek series. I think he comes up in, I want to say Voyager or Deep Space Nine. He comes back. But he was part of the failed pilot for the original Star Trek. The actual series, of course, stars William Shatner as Captain Kirk. But the reason I wanted to talk about it is because the original Star Trek is the early episodes, which were, of course, Roddenberry episodes. Those things are far more about humanity, you know. And you can it is true that anything that human beings write is about human beings because we don't know about anything else, you know. That was one of the ideas that, you know, very smart people, put that in quotations, came up with when they talk about robots, aliens, werewolves. What year did the pilot come out? I think it was 1963 or 1964 or something like that. But I think the series started in 1965. So the pilot came out in like 63 or 64. It doesn't look that much different, to be quite honest. And if it actually follows the theme that I'm talking about here. But to jump back to what I was saying is werewolves, vampires, robots, aliens, or whatever, they're all just different versions of human beings. You know, they're human beings minus certain virtues and or certain values and other things amped up. For instance, zombies. Zombies they're a play on humans and their fear of losing their freedom, but also their fear of conformity. And because zombies are very, very deadly in mobs. If you've ever seen zombie TV shows, a zombie one-on-one with a regular functioning person, usually it's not that much of a problem. But when you get 5 or 6 zombies and you're overrun, things get scary very quickly. And that can be analogized to fear of mobs, you know, fear of ignorant people who have all kinds of authority but no real intelligence. Vampires would be the opposite. It would be the fear of the charming, grandiose, uber intelligent, sexy, rich to leech off of the rest of us, literally drinking our blood. So that's something that we, you know, when we look at it, we look at aliens, you know, especially in the Star Trek universe, something like, you know, the Klingons, they're very aggressive. So they play into human beings and their you know, pride and combat cultures. So you get that with the Klingons, the Vulcans. You get the lack of emotion, the pure rationality. They're almost like computers, humanoid computers. Um, so that's also where we get like androids and robots and stuff like that. But the early episodes of Star Trek are very much about humanity. You know, it's like one of the episodes named Charlie X, and it's about a young man who apparently doesn't have any social skills. So he's he's becoming a young man and he needs a father figure. But then of course he gets like superpowers or some crap like that a little bit later on in the episode. But it's all about Kirk and the rest of the crew trying to be father figures to this young man, and how he can deal with rejection. You know, the girl that he wants doesn't want to deal with him, you know? And how can he deal with that? And especially now, of course, he gets up with powers a little bit later. And that becomes a running theme so far, is that human beings are some kind of empowered. There's one episode where like one of the crewmen become like an esper. He has the ability to move things with his mind. And what essentially ends up happening is he creates a god complex. He thinks he can do anything, which is a human frailty. And literally they have these conversations about these human frailties, that, you know, human beings, they get a little bit of power, they think that they can't be stopped, you know? And that's really what the early part of Star Trek is about, from my understanding, is that that's not about aliens that much at all, you know? Usually in Star Trek, when you sit down, you're watching weird aliens have weird alien problems. But in this joint, it's about relationships. There's an episode, I forget what, I think it's What Are Girls Made Of? I think that's the name of the episode. And it's about women who are being sort of pimped in space. And what you find out is that, you know, what they take on a sort of ultra feminine skill. It's like through like a chemical or a drug or something that they've taken that turns them into the best fit wives, you know. But in reality, all they are beautiful. And they have a conversation in the episode where one of the guys feels, you know, he feels screwed because his woman, the effects wear off, so she looks old, and she's old and tired, and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of a repeat of an earlier plot point in a different episode. But they have this conversation about, you know, what this man wants. He feels, you know, screwed because the woman is ugly and old and washed up, and she says, like, you don't want a wife, a partner, somebody who can cook and clean. You want something empty. You know, you just want beauty. That's it. So she pops the thing again, and she becomes the young woman that he wanted. And you see, like, oh, this ain't got shit to do with aliens. You know, they really aren't boldly going where no man's gone before. They're kind of using space and science fiction to tell human stories, which is not a problem, because at the end of the day, they're all human stories. But it's damn engaging. You know, it is very engaging, and I can tell you right there, it is. It's see, because I always heard about Roddenberry. You know, he was kind of a Stan Lee type. Took a little bit more credit than he deserved. But I never seen what he actually did. I think, you know, most of the stuff that I've seen when it comes to Star Trek, Roddenberry is probably already dead by that point. You know? But now these are the episodes that he kind of helped to write and helped to direct and all that kind of stuff. So these are his ideas, you know? And they're basically human beings in space. Even when you look at Star Trek, it's not as militarized early as it is later. I mean, yeah, there's a captain and there's lieutenants and stuff like that. They have the uniforms, but it's not nearly as militarized as Star Trek will become later. It's hierarchical. Like people call Kirk Kirk. They call him Captain. They sometimes call him Jim. You know, it's not as it's not nearly as a stick in the mud as like Voyager or um, Deep Space Nine, where they're almost always, unless they're in private quarters or whatever, referring to him as Captain. You know, always. Like I don't know. I'm really interested in finding out when that was flipped to where it became, the Federation is super militarized. And also, the Vulcans, because Leonard Nimoy is Spock, and usually, I think they told us pretty early that he was half human because they gave him emotions. There was a part, um, there was an episode where, certain emotions and certain thoughts of the crew were being amped up, and one of his was his emotional side. And so he was in the room weeping, talking about how much he was in love with this woman. It was pretty early in the series. So like they didn't over, browbeat you with, Spock being, human computer, Vulcan, but he is less emotional than the rest of the crew. Shatner's acting is tremendous though, especially in the episode. There's an episode where he's split in two. I think it's called the Inner something, or the Evil Within or something like that. And somehow Kirk is split into two different people, his light side and his dark side. So we got this Jungian conception of Captain Kirk, where he's greedy and selfish, and then his other side is sort of courageous and selfless, and so it was pretty wild. It's pretty wild, good human stuff, and I'm very impressed with it so far. Yes, it's a little drab. Um, the technology is like I. It was humorous that the Federation is supposed to be like far deep into the future, but they were still reading things like written on paper. Like there's nobody sitting down with a piece of paper or a pen and writing stuff down, but there's like a sheet of paper comes out of a computer at one point, and you're like, wow, in the '60s, you know, that's kind of what computers were in the '80s. That's kind of what a computer was in the '90s. But when you watch the shows that came out in the '80s and '90s, there's no more paper. They read everything off like a tablet, like we will have today, you know? And that's the genius of Star Trek, and that's really the folly of science fiction, is you have to go beyond what human beings can currently do, you know? Like, that's always my fear when it comes to writing science fiction, is I won't go far enough. You will go just far enough for it to be 10 years into the future. Like there's certain, like there's talking cars now. So like things like Knight Rider and stuff like that don't seem as science fiction-y anymore, because now we have talking cars. We don't quite have like floating cars like in the Jetsons yet. But Teslas will look a lot like spaceships. Which is, there's some Teslas out there that look like Batmobiles. So you have to, but of course people are going to eventually catch up. That's why you have to continue to create. We have to continue to be creative people, and when we come up with different things, we got to realize that it's written for a 2020 audience, 2022 audience, or whatever. In 20 years we may actually have that. So that show might not be as science fiction-y anymore. So that's one of the beautiful things about going back and watching something like Star Trek, is that it was 60 years ago maybe. But it was It was in some ways ahead of its time, in some ways of its time. And then when you look at the cast is very diverse. Where you got Sulu, who's Asian, Uhura, who's black. You know, it's it comes across like the Burger King Kids Club kind of concept that you would get out of science fiction today. They actually put together in the '60s. But when you take into account what the Federation is supposed to be, which is that human beings are supposed to be beyond a lot of the petty human issues that we have, and that is kind of how the show is, where all of the human problems are created by being in space. You know, like there's no racism. The problems are created by humans coming into contact with other things, other life forms, or other planets, other environments, or whatever the case may be. So it's very interesting from that perspective. Yes, Elijah Washington. I talked about Gangsta Boo a little bit earlier. It was surprising. I'm wondering, what it was. Was she? I think a lot of people, because she was only 43. I think a lot of people are jumping to the conclusion that it was probably drugs, and I don't think it was. That's all the way wrong to say. AJ3 asked me a question. Said, "Did you ever see the A Team show?" Well, A Team, I was just becoming old enough to look at it when I was a kid. So I think it was in syndication when I was a child. I couldn't remember it, if that's what you mean. But I know the show. I know it exists. Have I sat down and watched it? No, I haven't actually. And since I got Peacock, I went on Peacock to see what kind of shows they have, and there's a lot of science fiction shows that exist that I've kind of wanted to watch. Farscape being one of them. Like I used to watch some episodes of Farscape, but I never sat down and watched it all the way through. Maybe I'll go ahead and watch Farscape. I'll probably watch it on something else because I don't want to have to deal with commercials and shit. But I think I got commercial free Peacock. I'm not sure. Elijah Washington says, "You think it's drugs? They've been talking about lean back then." Well, I'm guessing unless it was like a sudden heart or head or sudden organ failure or something like that, it's probably gonna end up being. She's only 43, man. That's not much older than I am. Unless she was in really, really, really bad shape, just due to whatever, it probably was drugs. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon too, so who knows? Ellie Hankerson, I watched American Psycho and Clockwork Orange. What's your take? Well, I love American Psycho. American Psycho is a fantastic movie. It's a uniquely American film. It's a uniquely American film. A Clockwork Orange. I've seen that before, but I haven't seen it recently. But I know that is kind of like some ruffians. It's like a some street guys that was going around kind of getting into trouble. And then the most famous scene, of course, when they're forced to watch all these horrible things with their eyes held open. But I haven't watched A Clockwork Orange in a long time. American Psycho is far more my speed. Where, this guy is just kind of like everybody else. And he's in constant competition with all of these guys. And he's can't find any way to individuate himself. And what he cares about is so minute. It's just a great movie about the sameness, at the time what you could call homosexual reproduction of the same kind of person in corporate America. You know, same haircut, same suit, the same kind of girlfriend, the same kind of lifestyle, and how, you know, repetitive it can get and how boring it can get and how it can drive people crazy. I get it. You know, I get American Psycho. You know, it's a lot like Fight Club, or it's one of those movies that really, you really need to sit down and ingest. Like, you really need to sit down and watch American Psycho and be like, oh my god. Yeah, I haven't seen it in quite a while, but it's one of my favorite movies, American Psycho. American Psycho is the perfect Joker film. You know, this is what Ali Hankerson said. I don't know if that's the case. American Psycho, to me, is not really a Joker movie. You know, the Joker would never be in that scenario. He's chaos, you know, incarnate. He doesn't really play into the cookie cutter world of American Psycho, where everybody's the same and all that kind of stuff. He would never fit there. Taxi Driver is more of a Joker movie, you know, where it's like one man's descent into madness due to loneliness and that kind of thing. But even that doesn't fit Joker, you know. But the movie Joker reminds me a lot of Taxi Driver. Now, here's something that I did want to talk about, but I didn't think anybody would care. You know, Najee Savage asked me about Andrew Tate. So Andrew Tate was apparently arrested for human trafficking while he was in Romania. He had gotten into it with Greta Thunberg, the environmentalist. She's 20 now, 19, 20 or whatever. She's not a kid anymore. You'll find that the left really, really likes children to be the voice of stuff. Like, there was was it Parkland? Or was it, like, what was that kid that they dragged around when he was a teenager? Then as soon as he became college age, he basically vanished. I forget what his name was, but I'm pretty sure y'all know exactly who I'm talking about. But Andrew Tate, you know, being an attention whore, he decided to tweet at Greta Thunberg about his 33 cars and their climate emissions and all this kind of crazy stuff. And then she responded to him, and then a few hours later, he got arrested for human trafficking. So everybody is kind of overreacting about Andrew Tate. I want to give my thoughts about Andrew Tate first, and then I'm going to kind of go into the weirdness of behind this story. I'm going to be very honest. I don't give a fuck about Andrew Tate. Why? Why don't I care about Andrew Tate? Well, because Andrew Tate is the white man's Superfly. He's the white man's version of the Mac. If you black in the United States, you've been through 100 Andrew Tates. Too Short with an Andrew Tate. Women expect I'm a super alpha. You know, women just do whatever I tell them to do. You know, the motivational stuff, all that shit. We've gotten it from every rap song, every other fucking rapper since the 70s. Andrew Tate is nothing special. The only thing about it that's special is that it's for white guys. That's pretty much it. You know, it's a white guy bringing the pimp lifestyle to white people. Black dudes have been going through that shit forever. You know, we've been doing this shit for a long time. Ain't nothing Andrew Tate said that really threw me for a loop, surprised me, or offended me. He just kind of he has some good points. He made a good point with some of his videos. And I think that's really what bothered a lot of people, is that he felt free enough and was cocky enough to tell people the truth in a way that they didn't like. That part of it I can respect, because it does happen. Like, there was harsh truths in a lot of that pimp lifestyle. especially about your inability to go forward. You know, there is some real. I think I may have bookmarked a really good Andrew Tate quote that I want to play. Um, that I think is very important. But other than that, I really don't think that highly of Andrew Tate. You know, I know a lot of people do, but for me, he just seems like a kind of average guy who said things that took other people by surprise. But it didn't really take me by surprise because I've been hearing that shit for 20 some odd years, you know? And it's kind of weird. Um, Najee Savage says Andrew Tate's father is black. See, I didn't know that. I knew he was kind of brown skinned, but I didn't know like why his why he had brown skin. I figured he might have been like Italian or something like that. But in any event, you know, do I think that he's here's his here's the one that I wanted to play. It's it's about financial futures. I do want to talk about because this is something that I found to be very useful. Okay? This is something that when I heard it, I said, okay, this guy's on to something. Generally speaking, I don't care about Andrew Tate. But then you occasionally come across something where you're like, he's on to something. And this is one of them.
Most people have this view of they work and they get money. So they go to work, they make something, and then they get money. So they think they're making money. You cannot make money. You can only take money from other people. You can only convince other people to give you money. That's the only way money can be made, unless you're the Federal Reserve, and you're not the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve makes money. You take money. So when you're going through life, I want you guys to start saying, I want to make money. You have to start saying, I want to take money. Because that's how you have to think. You don't make it. You take it. So you have to start talking that way. You got to take money.
This is fucking brilliant. All right? This is brilliant shit. Because he's not wrong. He's not wrong in this respect. The only way for you to truly make money is for you to be able to make it out of thin air, and you can't do that. So every other version of money, I would probably say earn money. I probably wouldn't say take, because that sounds like robbery. I would say earn money. You want to earn money. You should always look at different ways of earning money. This is a 12-minute video. If Andrew Tate was merely just this guy, I would be fine with it. But all the shit with the 33 cars and living in a castle and him, the video of him smacking the girl and everything that some people say is a fetish and some people say is abuse, I don't know. I don't care. Ultimately, I look at it. I see that he says a lot of braggadocious things. I really just kind of laugh at it. You know, he comes across like another pickup artist kind of guy. He has excessive self-confidence. He knows what the business is about. He knows what this business is about. That's why he added and, went after Greta Thunberg. He already knew what he knows what to do. He knows that attention equals money. He knows that. He's not dumb. He's not dumb. All of these dudes know this. That's the one thing about this culture that certain people don't seem to understand. These guys get it. If you can get attention, you can get money. I get it. TN Pyro is not entirely wrong. Motivational speakers are sometimes kind of cringe. But there is an incredible amount of use for them. Some people are not self-starters. All right? Some people need that jolt of somebody saying something in a language that they understand and not just say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Sometimes somebody got to tell you something, and sometimes you got to deal with the brutally honest. And this is sometimes where a guy like Andrew Tate would be useful, is that sometimes he does have that brutal honesty, you know, that way of explaining things that is offensive to some because it's brash, it's not pretty, but it's useful to some people, you know. I don't think that all motivational speakers are useful though, but I do find some of them who have certain levels of charisma, I find them to be useful. Andrew Tate, this video is useful. I haven't sat down and listened to a lot of the stuff that he's done, because generally speaking, again, I just put him in the same camp with pickup artists and a bunch of hit the gym guys. Control your bitches, hit the gym. Like, that's once you anybody can tell you to control your bitches and hit the gym. You know, what I really wanted to know is, you know, what, as he was talking about the Matrix and all the Matrix's agents and all this kind of stuff, what was he saying that was so important that people hated him for it? And then I said to myself, you know, if he was teaching people how to be financially independent, I see why people would hate him. What the hell is a self-teller? I have no idea what that is. I'm going to play a little bit more of this Andrew Tate thing. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I just want to give people who haven't listened to it, give them a little bit more of it.
Business is simple. It's just other people's money. That's all a business is. A business is getting other people to send you their money. That's what a business is. Now, the Federal Reserve makes money. It doesn't matter. In America, they make dollars. It doesn't matter what country you're in. You've got your own version of the Federal Reserve. They create money from thin air. You need to understand something, is that money isn't real, and it's created from thin air to enslave us. You are slaves for money. The people who are in charge of the world, what they do is they type in numbers on a screen and they turn on the printer. They print pieces of paper, and then they use these pieces of paper to make you do things you don't want to do and make you a slave for pieces of paper that they make effectively for free. Now, the important thing about this is that this destroys the idea of saving yourself rich. I have lots of people come to me and go, oh, well, I'm saving for, if I save for my retirement, save. You cannot save yourself rich, because you can never save money faster than the Federal Reserve can print money.
That's fucking genius. There's something incredibly profound by that, because it's fucking true. All right. Every year, the Federal Reserve will fucking print more money than you will make, and therefore inflate the money. Therefore, devalue the fucking money that you saved. That's fucking correct. That is fucking correct. It's absolutely correct. The only way, and he's going to say this, the only way for you to really get rich is to make money faster than they can print it. But you can't do that either. So you have to consistently create revenue streams. So, which most people know reflexively if you tell them, like I do. Like, I reflexively tell people this all the time. They know this. Knowing it and doing it are two different things.
Because you can never save money faster than the Federal Reserve can print money. They call it quantitative easing. They call it like economy rescue. They call all these stupid things. Basically what they do is they turn on the printing press and they print money. So there's no point in you saving this money, working hard, saving little bits, and then they just print more. That's why you have to deal with inflation. That's why your money's worth less every year. But my point is, if more and more is going into circulation, you need to find a way to get more and more. You don't need to save the little bits you have, like a little squirrel. You Let me get the little bits and you just save them. No, you gotta find a way to get more and more. More exists. Every day there is more money. Remember, we're not trying to make money, we're trying to take money. Every day there is more money out there. Every street you drive down, every building is owned by somebody. Somebody owns that building. Billions of dollars. You drive down one road, you see billions. That skyscraper, that building, millions, millions, millions. From Tokyo, Shanghai, Dallas, LA, everything. There is so much money, it's everywhere. You have to find a way to take. You cannot make, and you cannot save.
I'm saying, if this was his platform, and this is all the shit he talked about, I would be fully in the camp of Andrew Tate. I would be 100% in his camp if this is the kind of shit he talked about all the time. Instead, it's a lot of the go to the gym, I got nice cars, dumb shit. And I'm like, I don't care about that. I've heard every rapper for 25, 30 years say shit like this. I don't care about that. It's not profound enough. But this is profound because this actually teaches people stuff. You know, this is something that makes people think. This is challenging. This is black pilling. You can black pill a motherfucker with this content. Tell people that you will never save more money than they will print. Your money will be worthless every single year. That's black pill. That'll make a motherfucker quit. But it's also inspiring because he's telling you that every time you walk past a building, there's business being done in that building. Somebody is finding a way. I'm choosing to reframe it not as take somebody else's money, but earning somebody else's money. Every time you walk past a building, there's more ways of earning money. It's a new opportunity. So if you walk around, let's say downtown Detroit, there's opportunities on every single inch of downtown Detroit. Everywhere you step is an opportunity because there's another building. They're conducting business of some kind in those fucking buildings. And it's your job to find a way to extract money out of one of these buildings or one of these people or more, hopefully more than one of these people in this building. Okay? If you are Michael Jackson, you go into a building called the Fox Theater and you stand on a stage. You are extracting income from every single person who paid a ticket to come in that building. You didn't take their money. You took it, sure, but you earned it. They gave it to you willingly. And this is how people are getting rich, and this is the only way you can really get rich. Can't get rich from stealing. Despite the fact that thieves fucking do it all the time, and there's hundreds of billions of property damage and income loss from theft every year, you can never steal enough to become rich. It will never fucking happen. The only way for you to really become rich is to create a way of consistently removing income from either a lot of smaller people or quite a few big ones. Okay? You can become fairly wealthy if you can find a way to extract a lot of money from the big entities out there, or little bits of money from the smaller people out there. A rapper, singer, or whatever, they're going to the average person, they're going to somebody like me. They don't have a lot of money, but they still want you to pay $125 to come see me sing or whatever, come see this person sing or whatever. You know? Get enough people to do that, you become a millionaire. Sure. You know? So that part is absolutely right. T and Pyro asked the question, so how the fuck do we take this money? Well, that's the part that you have to figure out on your own, because he only knows what works for him. And that's really the problem that we have with capitalism, is that we tell people, hey, money is everywhere. You know, there's almost boundless amounts of money. And you say, well, okay, there's still homeless people, there's still poor people. How do you teach that guy or that guy or that guy how to take this money, how to earn this money? How do you do that? And we don't have the answer to that question because it's all individual. Right? Every individual is good at something different. I was thinking about this earlier. I was walking to the store, and I was saying there's no such thing as an absolutely useless person, unless you are mentally handicapped and physically handicapped. That's the only way you're completely useless to society. Everybody has some value. You have something that you can do. Everybody. Some people are going to be able to get it in the mud. They're gonna have to get their hands dirty. They're gonna have to hurt their back a couple of nights, because you don't have the same skill set everybody's got. So you're gonna have to utilize what you got. What I tell people is, I ask people, what are you good at? What are you good at? And then if you don't know what you're good at, find out what you're good at, and then find a way to monetize it. Let's say you're not really, you don't think you're good at anything, or you think that you're good at something but you have no way of monetizing it. Okay, I understand that. At the end of the day, though, nobody is without something they can monetize. And this is where you kind of got to get down to the nitty gritty, because both women and men can sell their bodies for money. Now, typically when we talk about selling your body for money, people think prostitution. That ain't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, for men especially, you could be a pack animal. And some guys are pack animals for the rest of their life. Somebody need help moving a sofa. Everywhere, somewhere in your city, your general area, somebody need help moving. Somebody need help getting a couch in there. Somebody need help building a bookcase, or putting together a bed frame, or they need paint jobs done, or they need roofing done, or whatever the case may be. And you're going to be the guy that's going to have to go and do it. You're going to have to go cut the grass. You're going to have to learn how to put together some stairs. You're going to have to learn how to do that shit because you don't have any other type of skills. You don't know what you're good at. And hell, you might be good at that. You don't know that yet. All those fails, you can carry something. Lift with your knees, not with your back. All right? You might have to do that for a few years. If you're a woman, the brawn might not work too much for you, but there are still other options. Women used to have practical home skills: knitting, cooking, babysitting. There's plenty of things for people to do that young people can do that don't destroy their bodies and don't ruin their reputations and don't destroy their lives. People sell drugs because the shit's fucking easy. That's why they do it. The drugs essentially sell themselves. The fucking fiends come looking for you half the time. And all you gotta do is have the shit, pass the shit, and collect the money. That's really it. That's the thing about dealing drugs, is that the money comes fast. And it's not a lot of work. You're not gonna go home with your back aching. You're not gonna feel bad about yourself afterwards. Maybe if you put some thought into it, you sell enough crack and you see enough fucked up neighborhoods or whatever, you might actually start feeling bad. But for the most part, you have money when you didn't have any before. Whatever guilt you might feel is going to be tempted a little bit. But that Andrew Tate video is absolutely true. And whenever people come to me with either that socialist bullshit or that black pilling stuff, I just ask them, hey, bro, what are you good at? Don't give me some bullshit. Like, you're not about to be into the NBA. You ain't about to be Jay-Z. So forget all that garbage. You're not about to be America's best singer and all that. No, the chances of that happening, minimal. All right. If you were young, go chase your dream. You 21 or whatever, and you want to go to California because you still want to get that record contract, go for it. I'm not gonna hate on that. You're a young guy, go try it. But a lot of the dudes that I end up talking to is is in their mid 20s, late 20s, 30s, whatever. Bro, the NBA is not coming to look for you. You know, you're not going to be in a rock band or anything like that. And Tim Win is correct. Sometimes you need a team. You know, it's because in a lot of businesses you're going to need some help. You're going to need more. You're going to need money. You might be the guy with the cash, but you don't got the acumen. You don't got the business acumen. You might need a brain. You might need a brawn. You know, you might need somebody who is a better communicator than you are. And that's typically my issue, is I'm not really a good communicator. I really don't like, initiating phone calls and stuff like that. But there's a lot of money to be made for people who like to do that stuff. You know, there's an entire industry around, it's called sales. You can make commissions if you don't have a problem cold calling people. I do. I think that's annoying. It's not my strength to just call somebody on the phone. Hey, you interested in yada yada yada? I had an Uber driver once who told me, like, man, you should get into selling cable. I'm like, selling cable? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So during the ride, he breaks it down to me about, knowing the product and if you can do yada yada yada. And all of it is basically you hook up with one of these companies, Comcast or AT&T or something like that, and you just start cold calling people. And then they'll give you a percentage or whatever, or a commission for everybody you sign up. But you have to have the hustle and the go get it to be that guy. That's not me. That's something for other people to do. that's not me. That's something for other people to do, man. It's I don't know what else to tell them, but when people are, and it's good to get young guys while they're young, because they're looking at the TV and they want to do what they see on TV, and this kind of takes it into the Master P part of it, because when Master P was talking about Romeo and how could he owe Romeo money and all this kind of stuff, the way he broke it down was so beautiful, because it wasn't personal for him, it was pure business. Like, he compared Romeo and Bow Wow by saying, because people think that Lil Romeo sold hundreds of millions of copies of his album or whatever. He had somebody else Google it, and the most Lil Romeo has ever sold was $500,000 copies. That's less than platinum. That's less than 1 million. And he used to say, like, on No Limit, less than 1 million is a failure. So then you have to think about things like, okay, sample clearances. He was talking about getting Lil Romeo a Michael Jackson sample. And since Michael Jackson owns his own masters, Michael Jackson got the publishing for the Lil Romeo song. And he can't make any money off that. He talked about when Lil Romeo was on Nickelodeon. And he said, these people get, I think they said Ariana Grande or something like that was on Nickelodeon. She made $2,500 per episode, and Lil Romeo made like $1,000 per episode, and he only did like 53 episodes. So $1,000 per episode, that means over the course of his entire contract, he made $53,000. And then I think he bumped it up to 10 just to make an argument and say it would be like $500,000 or something like that. But it would take him 4 or 5 years to make that money. So when you think about that, you're like, fuck. These people on TV they don't make shit. Like, I already knew about, rappers. They don't make nothing. You know, they take advances and then be in the hole for their entire career. You know? So when so many people are looking at, and it's a thing called the 80-20 rule. What that states is that 20% of the people make 80% of the money or something like that. You know? So of all the singers you've ever seen, very few of them actually make any money. I just found out today that 50 Cent wrote Higher, the song for the game. And there's a reference track out there of 50 Cent actually rapping on that beat. Sometimes he's even using the same lyrics. Now, I know that this kind of takes into, somebody asked me about diss records or whatever. This kind of goes into that a little bit. Where 50 Cent, was talking about how he wrote all those songs for the game, and the game continues to lie about it. He's still lying about it. This shit is from almost 20 years ago, and he's still fucking lying about it. In any event, you find out that 50 Cent was a songwriter before he was really big, and he wrote hits for people. Like, he wrote for like LL Cool J. He wrote for R&B groups. He wrote for Diddy before he was really even on. You know? And you're like, it's amazing. It goes into what we were talking about here with Andrew Tate, is the idea of finding different ways of earning money. You know? How can you earn money? There was a singer, I forget what her name was, but she kind of wanted to be a star. She used to songwrite for Beyonce. And she wouldn't shut the fuck up about songs that she wrote for Beyonce. I forget what her girl's name was. Carrie Hilson, I think it was. But she, of course, I think she wrote some kind of hit song for Beyonce, and that became her claim to fame. And then she just wouldn't shut up about these songs that she wrote for Beyonce. And so she tried to become a star on her own, and it didn't work out. And and you learn that there have been people who have been in, the music business 20, 30 years, got cake, like legit money, because they know how to play their part and shut the fuck up. Meanwhile, other people on Front Street, with they rented fucking cars and they rented jewelry, talking about how rich they are and they fucking broke. They got nothing because they make nothing. And a guy like 50 Cent is the guy who's going to tell it. He's going to tell that you're not making shit. Because he knows. He's been on both sides. He's been an artist. He's been a songwriter. He's been a label executive. He knows what these people are making and, whatever. I remember he explained why Mariah Carey doesn't do albums anymore. And I was like, whoa. Let me see if I can find that clip. But there is so much to this thing. And when you are a person who is into capitalism and other people, it's easy to critique a system. It's hard to get people to recognize how the system works. And I had this conversation with people. I mean, if you're listening to this channel for a little while, and you know that whenever WWE gets into it with some talent or whatever, I'm almost always on WWE's side. And that's because I understand business without understanding even the nuts and bolts of the wrestling business. I don't need to understand the nuts and bolts of it. Generally speaking, people who take the sides of the talent typically don't know shit about the business. They don't know how much money went into the talent before the talent starts generating any income on the other end. And the music business is the killer. Is how much money goes into the front end of getting a record created, who pays the producers, who's paying for the studio time, who's creating the marketing campaigns, who's paying for the tour buses. It's never the fucking artist. The artist never pays for their own shit. It's almost always the fucking label. So then the label turn around and they say this project and all future projects belong to us. So then some dipshit who don't know shit about the business, don't know fuck or anything about what Def Jam or in this case this would be No Limit, how much money they spent on this fucking artist. They have no fucking idea. They only see the artist on TV with a chain and a car and all that kind of shit. And they think that's what the business is. Like, fucking no. The artist likely never paid a fucking producer because that's not their job. They probably got, somebody else paid for the video. That means they paid for the video girls. They paid probably for the promotional shit, for them to have jewelry and cars and shit like that. They probably paid for all of that. And then the label is going to get some of that money back on the records that they sell. Then if you don't sell enough records, you're in fucking debt. Okay? It's that simple. Because the label is in debt. They spent all this fucking money that you didn't make back. Guess what? It's the same thing in all businesses. The business has far more expenses than any individual person. See, I used to think that 360 deals were unfair. I used to I remember when I first started hearing about 360 deals, I was like, man, them shits is the most unfair contracts I've ever heard in my life. And then you realize that the label was putting together the tour, right? The label is not only putting together the tour, they're actually paying for the tour bus. They're paying for the flights. So the 360 deal is just them getting their money back. They're hooking you up with the commercials. So when they say they want the money off the commercials now, well, you only got the sponsorship because of the label. So yeah, they want their money back. And so many people don't seem to understand that. They look at it as the label got all this money, and the label's money apparently comes out of nowhere. It just grows on fucking trees. And the label can pay for all of this stuff. And that's it. It's like, no, the label has all kind of overhead costs. They have to put together a strategy, a marketing budget. Sometimes even for rappers, they have to bail them out of jail. They're paying dudes taxes for them. They're paying child support to keep these guys out of jail. There's all kinds of little shit that they did too that some people don't know about. T.I. was one of the ones who really put me hip to how if the label wanted you out of jail, they can get you out of jail. That was something for me. Because then I started saying to myself, like, yo, these labels got enough stroke that they can market you while you're in jail if they want to. They can use the fact that you went to jail as marketing if they want to. They have so much power. But, and that is true, they do have a lot more power than the artist. I can understand why an artist would be frustrated at that. But look at what the artist is asking them to do. What does the artist actually come to the label with? 9 times out of 10, they come with nothing but like a demo tape or something like that. Or them rapping over somebody else's beats. Half the time, motherfucker ain't got nothing. He got his own voice. I'm a rapper, I'm a singer or whatever. That's all you bring to the label. You don't bring any ideas, no concepts. You don't own shit. You don't have nothing. You come to them with nothing but raw talent. And then it says, use me. And now they have to look at you and say, what the fuck can we do? Is he marketable? Does he have charisma? Is he good looking? If he's not good looking, can we at least dress him well? Like half the shit is just the label image thrust upon anybody. And then you can look back, like I look back on like Nas' career. And when Nas used to do the shiny suits and he had the big QB chain and all that ignorant shit that, it made him look weird. You could tell that wasn't really him. It was the labels. Because that's what was going on at the time. And you kind of have to get an idea, like, yeah, it makes sense. He's dressing these dudes. Because it's a business. They're dressing them. They're telling them what to say. They're sitting around coming up with the marketing campaigns with them. Yeah, the label launches and the parties and the after parties, and they're helping them pop bottles in the club because if you know, helping you build your reputation. It's so much that goes into it. And then you have to be the guy who has to say that this system works. And that bothers people because they don't think that the system works. Capitalism is a failure. Capitalism doesn't work. Capitalism keeps people broke. You know, capitalism rapes the artists over, you know, from the over yada 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 yada. And then you have to say, well, how many of these people are really successful without the labels? Now, today, it's different. Today, you can become very successful in the music business without a label because you have access to a lot of the same technology that they have. You might not get the same boost, you know, but you have access. You know, they have SoundCloud rappers. You have SoundCloud too. You know, is a lot of it is similar. It's a lot more because they don't have the central node that they could control anymore. Back 25, 30 years ago, the labels had this king called radio that they essentially controlled. And you fucking didn't get on the radio, you know, unless it was local radio. And only sometimes when it comes to local radio. Without them getting their cut out of it. Because they was payola all over the place, paying to get the record spent and all that kind of shit. Paying for you to go perform in these small nightclubs and stuff like that. So they were really on top of it. But that kind of shit is not doesn't exist anymore because nobody listens to the radio. So if you got like a nice little YouTube video, YouTube following or something like that, you can be more successful now as an artist. And that's in any form of art. Look at comic books now, you know. 25, 30 years ago, shit like Cyberfrog or Isom or Jawbreakers or something like that would have been more difficult to do. Because definitely didn't have any home delivery services where people could buy your shit sight unseen and then are willing to give it to you, give you their address. Like that's very, very rare. I think they did it with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Mirage, but I think that was very rare. But today, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whatever, you have access to the same audience that Marvel and DC has access to. You know? So it's becoming a lot more equal. You know? You see it in the media space. Look at like somebody like Tim Pool, right? Or somebody like Cenk Uygur. Even though Cenk Uygur, they were on TV for a short amount of time. But somebody like Tim Pool could disrupt the news space because he has access to just as many people, if not more, without having to be on fucking TV. You know? And that's just the internet democratizing the creative spaces. You know, you can look at in the publishing industry, you know, books. When literature became absolutely paused and the agents or whatever started saying, we don't want any men. We don't, especially no white men. You can go start a YouTube channel, whatever, talk about fucking DuckTales, get a you know, people's opinions and, you know, create a little community for yourself and then sell your books there. You know, you don't have to go through traditional publishing anymore and their racism and their bullshit. You don't have to deal with that shit anymore. You know? AJ3 says artist development. What happened to that? I hear about it a lot, but I didn't know what it meant. Artist development is that. It's creating images. It is finding songs that people will be interested in. Give you a good example. B.O.B. I think wrote a song, right? And he was label mates with Lupe Fiasco. And I think the label took B.O.B.'s song and gave it to Lupe. You know? reference tracks and everything. And it's real quiet. You're not supposed to know about this kind of shit, but people find out anyway, right? And of course, the original artist gets a songwriting credit or whatever. But that's part of it. Learning how to write a song, learning how to put together your image, learning what your brand is, staying within your brand, you know? And sometimes guys, you know, they can dabble, they get enough time where they can go outside of their brand. I did a blog about Too Short and his situation with Barry Weiss from Jive Records. How Barry Weiss essentially had pigeonholed Too Short into that pimp category, the gangster rap pimp category. Tupac, Too Short wanted to break out of that. He wanted to do more stuff like The Ghetto. You know, he wanted to do more conscious stuff. But Barry Weiss knew that that shit wasn't gonna sell, so he figured, I'm gonna make a deal with him. You know, you give me the nastiest, raunchiest, street tail shit that you can do, and then I will pay for your album to do your conscious records. Too Short did it, and then the guy reneged on the deal because he knew that shit wasn't gonna make any money. Nobody wants to hear Too Short talk positive. You know, and by the time Too Short told this story, he wasn't even on Jive anymore. I think Shake That Monkey was out, and he was pretty much independent at that point. And like, people want to hear Blow the Whistle, Shake That Monkey, Freaky Tales, Blowjob Betty. They don't want to hear fucking Too Short try to solve the world's problems. That's, learning what your brand is, where your level of success is, and then keeping you there. You know, it does stifle your development because they box you in. At the same time, though, how many times have guys changed their image and changed everything about them and then fell off the face of the earth? Look at what happened to Ludacris. You know, Ludacris cut his braids off. He stopped doing kind of silly, fun rap, which had become a regular thing for Ludacris. He started trying to do rap over DJ Premier beats and shit like that, and motherfuckers was like, ugh, threw that shit out the window. Nobody even talks about release therapy. You know, they talk about Ludacris album. They don't talk about release therapy. They don't give a fuck about that. He had a song with fucking DJ Premier, and it was dope because Ludacris is not whack, but it wasn't Ludacris. People wanted Blueberry Yum Yum, pippin' all over the world. That's what they wanted, and Ludacris wouldn't want to do that shit no more. So guess what? Cut the legs off Ludacris. It's over. Busta Rhymes, something similar happened around the same time, actually. Busta Rhymes had became, Put Your Hands Where Your Eyes Can See, the wild fisheye lens music videos, fun, loud Busta. And then out of nowhere, he decided he wanted to be street Busta. And he cut his locks off. He doubles in size for some reason. He just got like super muscular, and he could still spit, but motherfuckers didn't care about that shit anymore. It wasn't the Busta Rhymes that they had grown to know and love. Part of artist development is knowing your style, your thing. This is what people want from you, and how to give it to them. Artist development now today is basically just be on social media, and since rap has become very feminized anyway, you just see all the Ice Spices and Ruby Roses, and all they do is bend over, and that's essentially their marketing campaign. Is they trending on Twitter? I literally said this yesterday or 2 days ago. Whenever I see Ruby Rose trending on Twitter, 99% of the time, it's not for anything musical. It's because she bent over in front of a camera. And as soon as I clicked her trending tab, she was on a stage, shaking her ass, bending over. But it works. It gets her attention. Took her all over the world so far. I couldn't tell you a song the first from that broad. I don't know what the fuck she raps about. I can pretty much tell from looking at it. I couldn't tell you shit about that girl. But she gets a lot of attention. And girls don't understand that. That's some easy shit to do. You know? When you look like that little girl looks, that shit easy. When you look like the Ice Spice girl looks, she's kind of thick. Bend over in front of a camera. I mean, nobody cares. Nobody cares at all about fucking Ice Spice. She came out with a second song. It was one of the most horrid horseshit songs I ever heard in my life. She still trends on Twitter anytime she bends over in front of a camera. 99% of the music business is now visual. That's kind of how it is now. You know? They couldn't tell you if this hoe could hold a voice, a note or not. That Chloe Bailey, she's another one. Every time I see her name trending, it's because she's naked somewhere. She's a cute girl for sure. I don't know anything about Lil Pump. I don't have no idea who that is. AJ3 says, I got this from Big Gip from the Goody Mob, talking about how the music industry is like witchcraft. A lot of people know that the music business is kind of evil. That's because a lot of it is about imagery. It's not about music. The music, a lot of industries are not about what you think they're about. I remember we talked about this before. WWE is not about wrestling. It's not a wrestling promotion. They produce wrestling, but they're not really a wrestling promotion. They don't give a fuck about wrestling. You know, wrestling is under Vince McMahon, wrestling was one of the last things WWE cared about. Look was far more important than wrestling. Charisma was far more important than wrestling. Marketability was far more important than wrestling. Access was far more important than wrestling. Getting involved in the mainstream or charities or something like that, far more important than wrestling. Actually being able to wrestle was low on the interest of WWE. They don't give a fuck about wrestling. They're not in the wrestling business. You know, it is about everything else. And the music business is the same way. When they started saying certain people are not marketable because of how they look, they used to tell Kelly Price that. She can sing, but she's fat. So, not that interested. You're fat. Missy Elliott told her the same thing. You know, got talent, but you're fat, so we're not really all that interested. You know? Missy Elliott was able to break through. Kelly Price to a degree. They usually get some of the big girls like Jill Scott to lose a little bit of weight, or they change how they look a little bit, you know, how they dress, stuff like that. They turn it into a visual, you know, because they know certain people, they're not really listening, but they'll watch the visuals. They get into it through the visuals. Music business isn't about music anymore. Because there's no fucking musicians. The people you think produce the records don't even produce the records anymore. People you thought wrote the records don't even write the records anymore. This shit is witchcraft. I found out Dr. Dre don't even produce half the shit that he said he produces. Same thing with RZA. They got young boys. Kanye West is another one. You know, he will at least say it sometimes. What a producer does. Producers don't make beats. They arrange. That's what they do. They're arrangers. Dr. Dre is a brand. Sure, he had to do a certain amount of work to get to that point where he can just become a brand and just put his name on it. Like, Dr. Dre produced this. Dr. Dre, what did he produce on it? He didn't make the drums. He didn't play the piano. What the fuck did he do? He arranged it, right? And then he probably, you know, coached the artists on how to attack the beat, you know, helped them with their lyrics, stuff like that. And no doubt. But he's not the beat maker. He didn't make the beat. He probably wouldn't put his name on it unless it was of a certain quality. But Dr. Dre probably ain't actually sat down and produced a thing from scratch in years. Fucking years. He's a brand. You put his name on it now, people are like, ooh, Dr. Dre, and they just go with it. That's why, like, Snoop Dogg, you know, I remember reading something passively about Snoop Dogg saying he doesn't write lyrics anymore, but he doesn't mind having ghostwriters now. Snoop is cool though. Snoop can get away with anything. But he talked about being essentially a vessel for younger artists and giving them opportunities. So he lets young boys write for him because he sees that as him giving them opportunities. You know, like he has nothing else to prove. He used to write for Dr. Dre. He used to write for this guy and that guy. You know, he helped so and so with their lyrics and all that shit. He did the work already. Snoop is in his 50s or something like now. So he's like, fuck it. I'm going to get a young boys an opportunity. They going to write my lyrics for me. You know? And it's a symbiotic relationship because Snoop knows how to write fucking songs. He's done it before. He just knows to do it now. You know, like he's in a position where he's doing everything that he does it for fun. So it's a collaboration. He can teach the young boys about a little bit about, you know, how he approaches the beat, the flow, how to make your shit sound like his shit, you know. But you can tell Snoop Dogg, I think Snoop Dogg probably should have stopped making music in like 97, 98. He probably should have gave up way back then. But, you know, I get it. I think that, you know, rap has become, it's been a little bit more open with, you know, ghostwriters and stuff. You know, it's a little bit more open than it used to be. Back in the day, man, Snoop Dogg never would have said that somebody else was writing his lyrics. Because he got laughed out of the business. But today, nobody cares. Most people are just kind of like, because they don't care about lyrics anymore. So they don't care if you don't write your own verses. They don't give a shit. It's not the 1990s where everybody wants to be the dopest MC who got the best pen. They don't care anymore. Only like 10 niggas actually care about who got the best pen in rap. Like, no, nobody cares. And that's just how it is. Darren Miles says, I think Daz Dillinger, DJ Quick, Johnny J, and a few other producers created the whole Death Row sound. Yeah, Daz especially was very, very hands-on on that kind of tip. I'm sure Daz did some work that he'll probably never tell anybody about. It's like DJ Quick, when you ask him about did he do the beat for or did the drums for In the Club, he doesn't want to talk about it. He's so tired of people asking him about it because everybody goes around talking about how it was a Dre beat. Dre did this, Dre did that. Meanwhile, it was DJ Quick and Scott Storch who played the pianos on a lot of the Dre records. And that's why I say Dr. Dre doesn't do shit. But that doesn't mean that he never did anything. It just means he got to a point where people trusted his name enough that he didn't need to do anything anymore. He can now sit back and orchestrate. Knowing damn well if he put his name on it, that's enough. That'll get enough people to pay attention to it. And it's getting to that point. That's what Kanye West, when he stopped writing his own lyrics and he started letting other people write his lyrics for him, he had gotten to a point where, well, I don't think Kanye ever wrote his own lyrics, to be quite honest. But he had gotten to a point where it didn't matter anymore. You know, it just didn't matter. You know, Kanye West is a brand. It's a collaborative effort between Consequence and sometimes a nigga like TJ, Talib Kweli or Common or whatever, whoever was writing his lyrics at the time, and whoever was helping him make beats at the time, finding his samples and, you know, all that kind of stuff. It was a collaborative effort. And that's how people are looking at albums now, as collaborative efforts. But that's not how it was like 20 some odd years ago, where you was expected to be able to sit down, write your own lyrics, and then the producer made the beat. But then you have to think about it too. And it becomes kind of funny. It becomes kind of obvious. Like once you realize that these people cannot do everything, it becomes obvious that they couldn't. It's impossible. Like, people used to get mad at me because I used to talk like RZA. He was like ghost producers. RZA couldn't produce all of the Wu-Tang shit that was coming out. It was so much shit coming out. He literally wouldn't be able to do anything else other than make fucking beats all day. They had like 4 albums coming out at a time. Like, there were solo albums coming out. There were side groups coming out. There was tons of shit coming out. I was like, RZA can't possibly have this kind of output. It's impossible. And then you come out a couple of years later, he's got True Master, and he's got Silver Rings, and he's got all these other dudes who make beats, and he tweaks it here and there, and, you know, that's about it. And you be like, oh, well, that makes sense. He's not producing every fucking thing. He's producing, quote unquote, but he's not making beats. Like, literally sitting down, you know, with his NPC machine or whatever and putting shit together anymore. He's not doing that shit anymore. It's too much. He's now moved on to doing other things. Before he puts his name on it, he's going to make sure it's of a certain quality. He's going to change it enough. He's going to do enough. But he's not sitting down crafting fucking loop singles and all that shit. No, he's not doing that shit anymore. And I wouldn't do it either. So I don't even blame him. But it's funny that today it makes a lot more sense for these motherfuckers to not write their own lyrics and produce their own records than they used to in the past. I actually am not upset about it. I'm not surprised at all. Tupac actually blew up the Dr. Dre thing when he started saying Dr. Dre was lazy. Because he couldn't produce as fast as Tupac wanted him to. You know? And that was in 95? 96 when he was on Dr. Dre for not being able to produce fast enough. It's like, production is hard. You sit down writing fucking lyrics. This guy's got to come together with, you know, how to put the piano in there, when the beat's gonna drop. You know, it's a little bit more intense than sitting down writing fucking lyrics, and then you have to, you know, find a beat to put it on. It's a little bit more intense than that. But then you realize Dre had already been in the business and was already successful by the time Tupac even fucking joined Death Row. He had already been NWA, already did The Chronic, already did Murder Was the Case. Not Murder Was the Case, but Doggy Style. He already did DOC, No One Could Do It Better. He already did that shit. Who the fuck is Tupac to show up and tell Dr. Dre he's lazy? This motherfucker's all the way up here at this point. He's already done this shit. You know? It was interesting, though. It's impossible. You know, it's impossible to keep up with it. But I think nowadays it's probably easier because they do everything on computers. So it's probably easier than ever to create a lot of output. You know? Back then it was probably hard as hell because you had the vinyl and you had to record it and then go back and isolate and all that kind of shit. Like, that shit had to be hard. You know, that shit was tough. Like, when you go to like some production channels and they break down the sample, you see how hard it is to isolate small loops or lyrics or whatever, separated from the strings, or even take the strings and do something else with it. It's hard. It's not easy. That's why I do like hip hop production. It's no cakewalk. But that's how I also know there's no way Dr. Dre was producing all those fucking records. And there's no way RZA was producing all those fucking records. And Ninth Wonder, when he was doing all the Little Brother stuff, and there was a bunch of other people coming out at the same time, it was impossible. He probably did a couple of beats here and there, but he also probably had Crisis or somebody else do some shit for him. And then he slapped his name on it. He probably changed it enough, but then slapped his name on it. AJ3 says, so therefore, who are the only musicians you know have beaten the music industry In my opinion, I could think of Prince and Michael Jackson till they die. Uh, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say Michael Jackson beat it. Prince maybe. Michael Jackson, I don't know, because Michael Jackson was still he was still trying to do albums. Like Prince had pretty much started doing his own thing. You know, Prince was so prolific. And the difference being that Prince could play every fucking instrument, Michael Jackson could write songs, but he couldn't play any instruments. So Prince could just sit in his fucking studio. He would have his own studio, and he could create. And then they said he had like vaults full of shit that he just made on his own. And when the label would want an album, he would just compile whatever he had in the vault and send it to the label. They don't know when the shit was created, nor does it matter, because he did it all in himself anyway. So he had his own band that he was hiring and firing and doing all that kind of shit. He just did his own thing. So yeah, he basically did beat the business. Michael Jackson though, a little different. You know, he still needed songwriters. Even though he was on his own songwriter for most of the time, he still used songwriters. Because I know Marsha Ambrosius helped him write some songs on Invincible. He still had some help out there. And he still had those huge campaigns, like those huge record label tours that he was about to go on. This Is It was like a huge tour that the label was going with. So he was still in the business, really. Prince wasn't really. Prince was independent mostly. Near the last few years of his life, Prince was mostly independent. He kind of got out of it. He escaped it. Michael Jackson, I was about to say they killed him. He died. Let's put it like that. Before he fully escaped it. Prince was tremendous. I mean, the man had immense talent. You know, and it goes to show that if you have talent, you don't really get caught up in bullshit. You can get out of it. You know, you can, when you have the talent, they can't hold you down. You know, they can put blockades in the way, but they can't hold you down. You know, what the fuck you gonna do? You gonna smash every guitar? You know, Prince is gonna make records. You can't stop him. You know, he said, "Is it fair to say Mike was similar to Hogan and Prince was similar to Savage in terms of work rate and charisma?" Yes, I think that's fair. But Mike was such a prolific songwriter, and if you could listen to Michael Jackson just talk about how he came up with songs that's so mundane that it can't be anything but the truth. Like he was talking about how he came up with Liberian Girl and he was playing pinball machines or something like that. And you're like, what the fuck do those two things have anything to do with each other? But then when you say to yourself, if you're a Michael Jackson and these things just pop into your head while you doing other things, and he just said like he ran off, he wrote it down, and then he went back to doing what he was doing. And you're like, wait, what? Like, why would he make that part up? Like, why would he make up that he was, you know, doing, and then he doesn't have any sort of long stories about how he came up with anything. Like when they put him under deposition and he was talking about how he came up with like bass lines in his head and stuff like that, they will always ask him like, where did it come from? He would just be like, I don't know. He was doing something else, and then boom, stroke of genius. He wrote it down, and then went back to doing what he was doing. And you're like, wait a minute, what the? That doesn't make any fucking sense. It's like, but if he was gonna lie, he would tell like a grandiose lie or something, you know, like he would have something that was attached to this thing. And I remember when they was asking him like, what song? I think we was talking about when we was talking about Thriller. You know, when he was talking about Billie Jean, yeah. He said he was inspired by his brothers. And then when he made Dirty Diana, the folks was like, "Oh well, he never been through this." It's like, what are you talking about? He just told you through Billie Jean. He went through this shit with his brothers. It's like, so even if he didn't have the actual experience, he got a stroke of genius from somewhere. It came from somewhere. And then he can't explain it. And there's no point in trying to. So he just jotted it down and would say, I came up with it. Then when other people would say they tried to came up with it, they couldn't explain where the shit came from. Or how Mike could do the shit verbally. Even if he couldn't do it on the bass, he could mimic it with his voice. And that's what he would say, like, when he would tell people this is what he wanted, he could mimic it with his voice. And I was like, fuck. It's just a matter of he couldn't get out of the trap. And I think that he also got really, really wrapped up in being Michael Jackson. I think he really got wrapped up in, the power of Michael Jackson. I think Prince just got, was like, fuck it, I'm done with this shit. I don't care what they do. And I think when he gave up his name and he just started going by that symbol, that's when he kind of figured out he was going to beat the system. He wasn't even holding on. That's his fucking name. His name is Prince. He's like, fuck it, you can have it. But they both was in debt. So, I mean, it is what it is. Unrelated comment, but what's up, Mongo? Who is the Michael Jordan, or would Michael Jordan be the Hogan or Stone Cold of basketball? Well, I guess Dr. J would be it'd be superstar Billy Graham. But I think he is the Hulk Hogan of basketball, though. He's like the first superhero of basketball. Like, yeah, there was some guys who were in the 70s and the 60s that were really good, but taking the game to the next level, especially when it comes to the outside the basketball arena with the shoes or the Be Like Mike and all that shit. Yeah, that was different. That was very different. That was beyond the game, And Hogan was basically that guy too. Like, yeah, some guys sold T-shirts before Hogan showed up. Yeah, guys had drawn, arenas or whatever before Hogan showed up. But all of the stuff that he was doing outside the ring, the movies, even though they were terrible movies, action figures, the video games, Saturday Night Live, being I think he was at the Grammys or something like that. All that shit, it could only be Hulk Hogan. Like, Hogan changed shit. He changed. That's why I say WWE isn't in the wrestling business. The wrestling business didn't respect Hulk Hogan because he wasn't a quote unquote wrestler. Okay. He could do wrestling because he did it in Japan. He could do wrestling because he did it in Canada. He did it in Montreal. He could do wrestling. But that's not where Hulk Hogan's bread was buttered. Hulk Hogan's bread was buttered with all of the marketing and promotional shit that he did for the WWF. That's what Vince is looking for. That's what Vince was looking for. That's why it didn't work again until Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. They were having good matches, but the real work was showing up on Regis and Kathy Lee, being able to do Celebrity Deathmatch, being available to do that shit. And that's why CM Punk was never going to work. Punk used to complain about all that shit. All the outside the ring stuff that he had to do. He didn't want to do it. He was not a people person. He wanted all of the love and the appreciation, but he didn't want the attention. He didn't want people walking up on him in the airport. He wanted to be bristly and prickly and all that shit. Nope, can't do that. Can't do it. You got to be able to That's why I say, man, to be the star of WWE, you got to be superhuman. Because I'm surprised Roman, has is still married to the same woman and has all his kids with the same woman. Because I think he came in at the right time, though. You know, it's a little bit more of a family business now than it was in the 80s and in the 90s, where they was dragging those dudes all over the world, man. I mean, those guys was not getting a fucking break in the 80s. Hogan was not getting a break. You know, but you have to realize that what Hogan did, nobody had done before. You know, so it was a little bit different. W feels it was Magic Johnson was the Bob Backlund. I don't know if he was the Bob Backlund. I don't know if he was the Bob Backlund. More like the Ric Flair, I think. G Coalition. If MJ was Hulk Hogan, did basketball ever get Stone Cold or The Rock? Well, you had Allen Iverson. You know, you had plenty of bad boys in basketball. You know, your Ron Artest. You had your flashy showmen, your Allen Iversons. You know, Allen Iverson changed the game too, quite a bit. You know, in the early 2000s, from 2000 till I guess LeBron James showed up. That was Allen Iverson's NBA. It was inspired a lot about street ball and that kind of shit. Well, that you could look at that and say it was kind of like the Rock's era of WWE. You know, except Allen Iverson never won shit. He never won a championship. But other than that, you know, it's I would definitely say that Allen Iverson is the Rock of the NBA. You know, and you got your sort of, well, it's hard to say who's the Stone Cold, because there's plenty of knuckleheads in the NBA, and they were always peppered throughout the NBA. You know, most of them wouldn't be at the same time of a Stone Cold Steve Austin. But like I said, like a Ron Artest or a guy who was into, and in terms of being handpicked, WG Phil. LeBron was given like $100 million as like 17 years old. They made sure he wasn't going to fail. There was more a likelihood to fail on John Cena than it was for LeBron James. LeBron James would literally have to break his leg in every basketball game he played in order to lose money. That's how they set him up. That's why I don't like LeBron James, and that's why I don't trust anything LeBron James says. They literally walked up to that kid when he was like 17 or 18, gave him like $100 million, and just said, "You're the king of basketball." Fucking kid's not even 20. He's not even played in the NBA yet, and they've already decided he's the king, King James. I remember because I think I'm around the same age as LeBron. I remember seeing that shit. I remember him having high school basketball games on ESPN. I was like, this is a fucking farce. This kid can't fail. You can't tell me that he was such a child of destiny and they knew it, and they were able to project 20 years into the future. No way. No fucking way. No way. There was just no way they was gonna let that kid fail. Yeah, there's no way. There's no way they was gonna let that guy fail, man. No. Mm-mm. I'm surprised they let him go to a small town market like Cleveland. I was surprised by that. I'd have thought they'd try to get him in New York or LA almost immediately. But because they want him in front of the big markets. Or in Chicago or something like that was another big market. Letting him play in a small market like Cleveland all those years before he finally moved down to Florida, Miami, that was probably the only mistake that they made. Mongo, LeBron is a generational talent. I'm not saying he's not. I'm saying he got he got helped. That's what I'm saying. Like, you could be a generational talent, but there's so many people who, let's just say, failure was not an option for LeBron James. I'm gonna put it like that. I told you guys before. I think almost every sport has a work. So I'm not gonna hold you up and say that I think LeBron James is just that fucking good. You know, I think there's some worked elements to that shit. That's why I say I'm surprised they let him stay in Cleveland all that time. You know, that was weird because Cleveland is a small ass market. Probably did good, you know, in terms of attendance and all that kind of shit being a draw. But you would have think they wanted them to be in New York because that's where all the money is, or in LA. That's where the money is. You know, Chicago. Top Dog says Kobe Bryant is the rock of basketball. Okay, I think I can give you. I think I can accept that. Kobe Bryant got accused of rape, and nobody talks about it. You know, nobody talks about it anymore. I remember when it happened. He went and bought his wife this big ass ring. She went and got a big dumb ass ring too, boy. She got like one of them Wilma Flintstone rings. And they got accused of rape. That was some wild shit. That was interesting. That was more interesting than the game, as far as I'm concerned. I was never really a big basketball guy. You know. AJ3 says NBA is overplaying the players to shut up and play. And I did see that flick that Kyrie Irving posted on his Twitter. I think that the players nowadays make so much money, there's no money in rocking the boat. You know, there's no money in rocking the boat. So, they just going to go along to get along. The same thing with the NFL, but the NBA has more cultural cachet with black people. So, they're going to go along to get along. When they started doing protests and shit like that, I knew something was up with the NBA. Because the NBA in the 90s would always try to avoid that kind of shit. You know? They were always trying to avoid that kind of shit. I don't know who the Stone Cold of basketball would be. I would need to know more about basketball. I don't know that much about basketball. AJ3 says, little bro H learned everything he knew from Vince and such. We get the same show, but with 8 minutes more wrestling. At least about developing characters with charisma and personalities. I think that Triple H is trying to do something different. That's what I think. I think that for years, he, along with the Meltzers and all of those guys, they want to be right about what wrestling is. And they have all, whether on purpose or not, ganged up and said that Vince is wrong about what wrestling is. And when he got NXT to work by changing what NXT was from a game show to developmental. When he got that to work, and he was able to win over the dirt sheets and all that kind of stuff, I think it went to his head a little bit. You know, now I think Triple H wants to bring what worked on NXT to the main roster. But no, he's pushing. Like I said, I'm going to wait till WrestleMania because that's really because by then it's going to be 6 months or something like that. But I really want to see who is going to be his first champion he got from scratch, that came up through his system that Vince didn't touch. That's who's going to be the real judge of Triple H's ability to pick talent. Nobody that's on the roster currently, because either Vince fired them already or Vince already put them in position. Like Cody wins the Royal Rumble, goes on to beat Roman Reigns. I'm not even going to count that for Triple H because it was already started under Vince. Austin Theory is another one. It already started under Vince. I'm not even gonna. Yes, Triple H did his own thing with it, but it already started under Vince. I want to see who Triple H is going to look at from scratch. Look at them and say, that's going to be my guy. That's what I'm waiting for. And it might be another 2 years or whatever before that happens. But that's what I'm looking forward to. And that's when I started really getting an attitude with Tony Khan. When he wants to push guys who are already over, Jericho, Moxley, Punk, Kenny Omega, I don't care. When he starts wanting to push his own guys, Hangman Page. No. Nope. That's a miss. when you picked 2 years before it actually occurred, you decided of all the guys, no matter who I sign after Hangman Page is our guy. That's a mistake. And I'll never forgive Tony Khan for that. Because anybody in their right mind will put the belt on Punk. You're not a great booker because you gave the belt to a successful New Japan guy. That doesn't make you a great booker. It's like you pushed Andre the Giant. Yay, you're smart. Like, no, fucking everybody pushes Andre. You had, like TNA is not smart for putting the belt on Kurt Angle. That you'll be brain dead not to. Okay, it's what you do, who you look at in terms of talent that you push from scratch. That was going to be your guy. That's when we're going to look at whether you can recruit talent and you have an eye for talent or not. And Tony Khan just ain't got it. He just ain't got it. MJF is great. I think he should have won the belt instead of Hangman. That's for sure. But I'm interested in where he goes with his next top babyface and everything. Whether it's going to be Ricky Starks or not, we'll see. G Coalition says maybe Kobe is The Rock and Allen Iverson is Austin. You said yourself, Iverson brought street ball elements to the NBA. Plus, he drove to the basket with toughness and had a bit of an attitude. All right. That does seem to work a little bit better. That works a little bit better. He said Triple H is boring. Let's be real here. No one likes LeBron or his shoes besides Chinese people. In the media loves LeBron James. They love that fool. Funny, ever since I started watching wrestling again, I can't get into the NBA. I've never been into the NBA. I always watch small number of basketball games per year. I'll watch maybe some of the playoffs, and that's it, because there's too many basketball games for me to follow and too many basketball games for me to care about. I like football because there's a finite number of games. And even I don't watch all the games. Like, I watched the games this weekend. Like, I watched U of M, TCU. I don't even want to talk about it, but I watched it. Ohio State and Georgia, I watched that game. I don't want to talk about it, but I watched it. I watched the Lions win today. That was good. We can talk about that. But I only watch games when they matter. Like the Lions is in the playoffs hunt. So I will watch these games because they're in the playoff hunt. If they were already mathematically eliminated, I wouldn't be watching fucking Lions games. I wouldn't care. Because it wouldn't mean anything. It'd be a pointless fucking football game. But because it's potential that every win that the Lions get, they could possibly go to the playoffs, I'm watching these games. I'm in. I'm locked in. You gave me a storyline, I'm watching it. That's why I watch basketball. If the Pistons make it to the playoffs, or maybe I'll watch bits and pieces of the playoffs, it'll be because there's something important happening. But it's easier for me to watch a game in week 12, week 13, week 14 than in week 2 or 3, because I don't care at that point. There's no reason to care. WG Phil says, watch his first champion be some black and gold has been. And Bennett says, probably be Karrion Kross. You know what? I don't think it'll be Kross. I don't think so. Because Kross is really on the outskirts right now. They really just kind of want you to forget that Kross is there. You know, there's more with Dominic and Ray than Kross and Ray. And I don't know. G Coalition says, Fruitcake Millennial Cowboy gets a push before Ricky Starks and Miro was nowhere to be found. Of course, Tony Khan ain't got it. Yeah, he ain't got the juice at all. He ain't got the juice at all. I mean, he ain't got the juice in any way either. You know, like, he can't even make... There are slam dunks in the business, right? Again, slam dunks. CM Punk is a slam dunk. You should have been able to make that work. You know, he couldn't really get that to work. You know, I don't know. I don't know why. You know, it's not like when Flair came to the WWF, right? That audience knew Ric Flair a little bit, but they wasn't really attached to Ric Flair. And that happens a lot with the WWF. You can bring in a guy like Sting or AJ Styles or whatever, and it's not 100% that audience is going to appreciate what they did somewhere else. It's not always going to be the case. CM Punk should have been a fucking home run for AEW. Everybody in that audience loved him. Everybody wanted him to come back, and they still managed to muffle it. How? Because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You know, that's a clear sign that Tony Khan ain't got it. Yeah, he ain't got the juice. when it's not even like you hit a triple, bro. Here's my thing about AEW that's so frustrating. And I was talking to my brother about this earlier. AEW, by virtue of just having money, became the number 2 wrestling promotion in the United States. They didn't have to do anything. Impact didn't have any fucking money. Ring of Honor didn't got any fucking money. Everybody else is broke. Just by virtue of having money, they became the number 2 wrestling promotion in the United States. And they act like they hit a triple. You know? It's like, no, by virtue of having money, that's all you really needed. Other promotions had legacy. Other promotions had in-ring product. They had talent. They had all that shit. They didn't have any fucking money. They didn't have network television. By virtue of getting on network TV, AEW became the number 2 wrestling promotion in the United States. That's all they had to do, was get on TV. And they did it. And they immediately became number 2. And when you talk to their fan base, they act like AEW earned something. They didn't earn shit. All they did was appear. They popped up with money, financial backing, and they got a partner, which they was able to get because they had financial backing. And that's it. That's literally all they've done. They've been running off that for 3 years. That's incredibly frustrating. You know? Because they didn't have to do shit. They didn't have to build any stars. They came in with stars. With guys that they got from Japan and guys they got from WWE. That was it. At least TNA, when they were doing their thing, they might have had some WWE guys like Hall and Nash, but they weren't at the top of, they weren't like world champions and shit like that. They were recognizable names on the roster. But they were still trying to push like the X Division and Jeff Jarrett, which I guess Jarrett would be like, I wouldn't say he was like the equivalent of Chris Jericho. But also, Impact built up a reputation through the weekly pay-per-views. AEW didn't do shit. You know, like literally, they talked to a guy in Warner Brothers, say, hey, we got $100 million or whatever. I'm going to fund this wrestling promotion. All you got to do is put it on TV. Okay. And they became instantly the number 2 wrestling promotion. and didn't put no effort in. It's been simple. It's been simple for them. All they got to do is maintain their money in their TV deal. Literally, that's it. It's literally all they got. King Mike hopes the Lions and the Packers tie next week. That's not going to happen. Baseball, I know nothing about baseball. LeBron is a John Cena in baseball. I think so. What happened to Karrion Kross? I don't know. Him and they're still working house shows. Him and Scarlett. They were backstage at SmackDown because Scarlett was in her wrestling gear. I think they actually wrestled in a dark match. WG Phil says, which Triple H crown champion would you be okay with? Because I like Karrion Kross, I would be okay with him, but they're not doing enough with him right now. I don't want to give Triple H any credit for Brian Breaker, but it depends on what he would do with them on the main roster. But I think Brian Breaker, a lot like Austin Theory, was a guy that WWE basically put a gold star on. It says, okay, this is our guy for the future. Similar to Randy Orton and John Cena. So I think that he's probably going to be the first real project. Is going to be Brian Breaker. And I'll be okay with that. If they don't fuck it up. And it's going to be hard for him to fuck it up, to be quite honest. What's one that if he crowned champion, you'll stop watching? I don't know if anybody, because I'm one of those people that realizes that world championships it's a temporary thing. But if it's Johnny Gargano, I'm going to be very frustrated. That's going to be incredibly frustrating. Johnny Gargano would be so frustrating. It would be an unmitigated disaster. That would be a disaster. Who ruined themselves by staying around? TNA? TNA never had the money. He never had the money. Even when they were backed by multi-billionaires and Panda Energy, they still couldn't get the fucking money. Tony Khan can get the money. It's just the money is there, man. He can get whoever he wants. It's that he wouldn't bother to get certain people. Like, it was stupefying to a lot of people that he wouldn't try to get Braun Strowman or Bray Wyatt. Just to keep them away from WWE, he wouldn't even try to get them. And you would sit there and say to yourself, like, this guy who brought fucking Warhorse onto national television didn't think Bray Wyatt was good enough. He didn't think Braun Strowman was good enough. But this fucking guy... if for nothing else, you would have brought them in so they wouldn't go back. But he didn't even do that. Just doesn't make sense. WWE is at least willing to be competitive. Like when they paid all the money to the Good Brothers, just so they wouldn't go to AEW. Bullshit. I don't like the Good Brothers. But at least shows that they got a competitive spirit. That they're thinking about it. And saying, hey, these guys might be able to help you. We're going to keep them away from you. Not the smartest thing in the world, but not the worst either, Shows that they've been in a fight. And that they're ready to fight. It's weird. Oh, AEW got exposed by, yeah. They're going to be around for a long time, too. AEW ain't going anywhere. At least I don't believe so. Where are they going to go? I don't care what Tony Khan says. Warner has some real hand in AEW still being around. G Coalition brother says this is why Will Ospreay just said Kenny Omega talks like he and the Young Bucks bet on themselves, but no, they bet on a billionaire son. Well, yeah, you know, they found themselves a money mark and they basically just attached themselves to him. It was smart because it wouldn't have worked if they went to WWE. It wouldn't have worked to this degree. You know, they wouldn't have been able to play Vince. You know, they played Tony Khan like a fucking fiddle. They wouldn't be able to play Vince. It wouldn't work. Nah. Vince can get played by his crew, you know, the Sasha Bankses and the John Cenas and all those guys, because he loves them, you know, whatever. But fucking indie wrestlers, no. He drives them fucking indie wrestlers crazy, bro. No. 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 The Rock got over on Vince quite a bit. I don't see Kenny Omega being able to talk Vince into anything. You know, fucking no. As a matter of fact, if you looked at the monthly Puro interview that Kenny Omega just did, it was like that bitch was long. It was a long fucking problem. Oh God, it was a long interview. I skimmed through most of it. But I made sure to read when he was talking about his time in WWE Developmental and how they tried to force him into being what they wanted him to be. And then later on, he's talking about, you know, the freedom that him and Kota Ibushi had to do top rope 450 splashes. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I kind of was reading it, and something in my brain just kept telling me, who is this interviewer? Who is this interviewer? Who is interviewing this guy? Right? And I was saying to myself, it's some soft ass white boy. I know it is. And so I went to the quote tweets for the interview. And I just kept scrolling because I was like, I know whoever it is, they quote tweeted it. Sure as shit ain't sugar. The editor-in-chief of the fucking magazine. It's a mid-30s soft-ass white boy who was talking about how he was shaking and crying because he interviewed Kenny Omega, his personal hero or whatever the fuck. I was like, this shit's so whack. Like, this is a whack-ass fan base, man. You know, it's a whack fan base. You know, it's weak. Why? Why did it have to be this way? Like, the whole golden lovers, golden showers shit. I'm like, oh no. Anybody who likes that stuff, I already know what's up with them. You know, I'm not going to get too far into the weeds on it, but I already know what's up with them. You know? And everybody who likes that he wrestled that blow-up doll and look, I'm not even a person who, you know, going to browbeat him for the blow-up doll match. It's just that a certain kind of fan is really into that stuff. Really into that stuff. And it's weird. It's weird. AJ3 says, why is it that a babyface won a championship, they want to make it mean something, but when a heel won a championship, they just wear it, and when they come to the ring and not defend it, is that heat? No, it's basically it's a philosophical difference between heels and baby faces. Baby faces want to always show that they're willing to fight, they're a fighting champion, that they're proud of their achievement. A heel is always very protective. You know, they want to defend it on their terms, not as nearly as often as a babyface wants to. They're not as excited about defending the title. They don't care about being the best. And typically, in a situation where you're the heel, you're not going to be the best. You're going to be positioned as the one who gives up the shine most of the time. So, it's a different philosophy. You know, if you're a tough talking badass heel, then you might want to, you know, offer to defend the title all the time. But most heels are chicken shit heels anyway, and they don't want to defend the belt. Or they'll play the whole better than you, you don't deserve a title shot kind of thing. You know, but it's just a philosophical difference between babyface and heels. Oh yeah, WWE is the only wrestling promotion right now that still exists that came from the territory era. You know, they come to fight. They come to fight all the time. They don't come to. They ain't coming soft. They ain't coming to be co-promotional partners and all that bullshit. You know, that's what I liked about the whole, Vince wanting to cut the balls off AEW. I thought that was great. You know, because that's the shit that Vince does, man. That's what he comes for. He comes for it. You like, hey, you want to come, and attack us and take our talent or whatever? We'll fire some more fucking guys for you to come and get. How about that? Like that shit was great, and people didn't like it, but they wanted to have the war. They wanted the war with no casualties. Like no, we need some casualties around this joint. Salute, Happy New Year, Eric Mack. What is so special about Kenny Omega? I don't look. I read that story, and to me, a lot of people are in love with the Kenny Omega story. And that is guy who left WWE developmental, quote unquote, bet on himself, went all the way to Japan where they love all that strong style stuff, ingratiated himself into that culture, learned the language, did the dojo thing, worked his way up from the doldrums of Japan to the main event of the Tokyo Dome, and there's a story there. Then when you look into the whole gay shit that he was doing with Kota Ibushi, it kind of fits into the theater mindset of the current wrestling fan that's more into the rainbow variety. And I think that's what a lot of it is, personally. I think everybody's looking at it, and Kenny Omega is like one of the first gay wrestling icons, And it's not even. I'm pretty sure he's gay, but I'm not. I cannot confirm that Kenny Omega is a homosexuality. I just say this. I've never seen Kenny Omega with a woman. I'll say that. I've never seen him with a woman. I've never seen him kiss a woman. I've never seen him hold hands with a woman. Kenny Omega's in his 40s. Right? He comes across a lot like a weird uncle. Like that cousin that always comes by himself. And I'm not even really tripping on him being gay. I don't care if he is gay. But it says a lot that was his primary thing that people love about Kenny Omega. Have I ever been to a strip club? Yeah. I haven't been to many. I've been to a strip club like twice. It's one of those things where, like going to regular clubs, like when you're old enough to do it, you just don't find it that interesting. Like I didn't really find strip clubs to be that interesting when I did it. I didn't have. I think it's an experience everybody should have at least once or twice in a strip club. But I don't see how people can go all the time. Those girls they're predators, bro. They're after them pockets. And if you're a soft man, you're in trouble. AJ3 says, like, how many title defenses did Honky Tonk Man have when he was the Intercontinental Champion? Well, it was Honky Tonk Man was the main event of some house shows. So if you're talking about house show defenses and all that stuff, he probably had quite a few. If you're talking about like TV defenses, he probably didn't have that many. I don't think. As a matter of fact, as I sit here, I cannot think of too many matches where the Honky Tonk Man went in as the Intercontinental Champion and walked out as the Intercontinental Champion that I remember seeing on television. I think he might have wrestled Tito Santana in a series of matches on TV, and I think that might have been it. Trying to remember who else he might have wrestled at that time. Because I think he won it from Tito, didn't he? Yeah, I think he won it from Tito. I don't want to rack my brain over it. King Mike said, I see the star in Kenny Omega, but he never done any star shit. I see from a work rate perspective why everybody likes him. You know, I respect his athleticism. He's a great athlete, but I think that he's a mid carder. If that's just we being honest, like if you take him and you put him in his proper context, he's a high mid card guy. Great athlete, can get over with the audience off his athleticism, but he's not really a great promo. He's not really excellent talker. He doesn't really carry himself like a superstar. He doesn't dress like a superstar. I don't know. Like he just comes across as an intercontinental champion to me. You know, a great intercontinental champion. Maybe he gets a couple of title shots, but that's about it. I don't never look at him from. He won it from Ricky Steamboat. You're right, because Steamboat left. You're right. Yep, because he wanted to go home. So yeah, Tito was long before Ricky Steamboat. Yeah, Savage won it from Tito. There's the Riho rumors for Kenny Omega. I don't. I think Jim Cornette started those rumors, and I'm more inclined to believe that Kenny Omega is gay. He just won't come out and say that he's gay. Why he won't come out and say that he's gay, I don't know. Like at first I thought that, okay, he's not going to come out and say that he's gay because people are going to make fun of him for it. That's what I thought. Then I realized, like, okay, maybe he's not going to say that he's gay because if he doesn't say that he's gay, let's say, then it destroys his gimmick with Kota Ibushi, because his whole thing with Kota Ibushi is that they're lovers. They even called the gimmick was called the Golden Lovers, and they used to kiss each other and shit. He's also the 60 slap fight guy. And I say to myself, like, everything about this guy tells you that he's gay. Why won't he just say that he's gay? But then I'll just say to myself, like, maybe it's kind of cool that he doesn't just come out and say that he's gay because he's not making it about his sexuality. He's just trying to be the best wrestler he can be. And I do have some respect for that. But he's just so fucking weird that there's got to be a reason why he doesn't connect, because it is weird that he would be a 40-year-old virgin and that guy would have like no sexuality whatsoever. Like that's weird. You would think that even if he was gay, you would see him with like, I don't know. King Mike thinks Tony Khan is gay. I thought the same thing. I legit thought he was gay too. It's just a lot of like oddly single behavior in AEW, where it's just like single guys with like no women around. Like even if you are not married, you would at least see a guy with a girlfriend. He's got an on-again, off-again girlfriend or something like that. Or at least a woman. Like I saw that Christmas picture of Tony Khan where it's just him standing next to a Christmas tree and he's by himself. There's all these presents. And I'm like, he ain't got no kids. Unless all these presents for his mom. What the fuck? Like, everybody's taking like family pictures. Everybody's taking family pictures for Christmas and shit. Like, holidays. Everybody. Except certain weird people in AEW. It's odd. It's just odd behavior and I don't get it. And maybe it's not for me to get. Because I am on a tip, like, I'm not gonna judge him. It's just kind of like, I'm curious. I don't need to know for sure. I'm just very curious that it's going to eventually come out that Kenny Omega is gay, and I'm gonna be like, oh, okay. It's not gonna be like a bombshell or anything like that. I'm thinking he's coming across like a very Queen Latifah. Is everybody knows that he's gay? Everybody's just kind of like, all right, just come on out with it. And everybody's like, oh, he's bisexual. I'm like, he's gay. When was the last time you saw Kenny Omega holding hands with a girl? You know, when's the last time you seen Kenny Omega doing anything with a woman? Or even mentioning one? Like, there's nothing about him that comes across as being heterosexual to me. He looks like girls creep him out. And I don't get it. Him and Tony Khan. It's weird. It's so fucking weird. But I thought Chris Jericho was gay too when I first started watching, WCW. I ended up being wrong. He's not gay. But I don't have a good gaydar, but Kenny Omega's giving me like Queen Latifah vibes. Where, you have the idea that he is probably gay. 99% sure he's gay, but he's not ever going to say anything. I think that if Kenny Omega came out and said he was gay tomorrow, it would take his career to a whole new level. And AEW is the perfect place for him to come out and say that he's gay. It wouldn't be no backlash whatsoever if he came out and said he was gay. AEW is perfect. It would be the perfect place for him to come out and say that he was homosexual. Everybody would be behind him. I would be more concerned if he was on the WWE roster. I still think that in today's wrestling landscape, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But the AEW roster, when you had you got fucking Nyla Rose on the roster, you still got that other beanhead on the roster, Yeah, if he's bisexual, he's still gay. So it's like I don't know. I never heard anything about him and Sheeta. I don't know, man. AJ3 says almost 90% of that W roster promos are not good because none of them can talk. Hell, Jungle Boy can't cut a promo to save his job. And he's lucky he's in a company that doesn't make him. Doesn't really push him to do it. I'm telling you. It would have been the first thing Vince would have done to put him in front of a microphone. They'd have forced him to cut promos. He'd had to cut promos in the Performance Center before he even got on TV. And I don't see why they don't force him to do that. Everybody can't walk around. Everybody can't be a mute on the fucking show. I'm sorry. It's too many mutes. Like too many people where you forget what they look like. I mean, you forget what they say. Like Toni Storm. Girl's pretty as a picture. She got no personality whatsoever. They put her in front of the camera. All she does is wrestle. It's like, okay, can she talk? If she can't talk, give her something to talk about. They can't even do that. She ain't been on TV since she lost the belt. Jamie Hayter doesn't talk. It's like, I don't know, man. It's weird. AEW everybody's a fucking hermit. I don't get it. They work once a week. They work once a week. And you can spend the rest of that time cutting a promo, I don't see that. Here's the thing: Jungle Boy and Hook become a tag team. Who's going to cut the promos? It's going to have to be Jungle Boy, right? Because Hook, part of his mystique is that he doesn't talk. I know he has talked, but part of his mystique is that he doesn't talk, and he's unemotional. So that means Jungle Boy is going to have to cut the promos. He's going to have to be the passionate one. And we've already seen he's not that good at it. He's got more practice than Hook. And that's saying something. I don't know, man. I don't understand how they're going to have a heartthrob tag team like it's the 1980s and neither one of them got any fucking any fucking charisma. Good luck. Good luck trying to have your own Rock and Roll Express, your own Fantastics, and these fucking guys can't talk. I don't know. I don't know, man. Everybody's a mute. You know, it is what it is, man. Everybody's a hermit. They don't go outside. They don't do anything. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know how they get away with that shit. Like, you're the most boring guys in the world. AJ3 says, why aren't there any more Dixie Carters, Jim Hurds, etc. in the wrestling business? Yes, we know they're not wrestling fans, but how worse can it be? Well, Jim Hurd worked for fucking Turner already, so I don't know about that one. But there's plenty of Dixie Carters out there. There's a lot of Jeannie Buss is a Dixie Carter. She's running a female wrestling promotion. Wow, she's running that joint. There's a lot of people with money who are wrestling fans, but they're not going to run head up with WWE. You forget that. Tony Khan was the only one who's willing to do that. I think they're. I'm thinking that there are probably some angel investors in some of these smaller promotions that probably, if you were to look into them, there'd probably be some people with money. But how come they don't just go about their own promotion and go out there? It's because it's very expensive. It's very expensive, and where are you gonna air the show? That's gonna be the question. Where are you gonna air the show? How are you gonna get the money for the show? You know, I don't know. Where's the money gonna come from? So, I would give Tony Khan credit for that. At least he's willing to put his own money where his mouth is. AEW wrestlers just wrestle, do beatdown segments, save someone from the beatdown. You would think that all the wrestling Tony Khan watched, he would do something different, especially since he was a fan of ECW. ECW was very heavy on the soap opera. They avoid doing soap opera in AEW. That's stupid. Wrestling is soap opera. You know, like the whole thing, like he's trying to do this AR Fox, Shane Strickland thing, right? Based off of their Lucha Underground backstory. My question is, why are you doing that? You don't have the story that Killshot and Dante Fox had in Lucha Underground. That's why that stuff worked, is because they took the time to tell the story of Killshot as a character and Dante Fox as the characters, building up to the Ultima Lucha Tres match. They put the groundwork in. AEW just want to say, oh yeah, we got these two guys on the roster, they're going to go and have a match. Well, you haven't pushed AR Fox to be anything. You signed him, and now he just wrestles matches. We don't know anything about him. If you didn't watch Lucha Underground, why would you care? And let's say you did watch Lucha Underground. Shane Strickland is not Killshot. It was just a character he played on that show. So, what's the story going into this match? We had a match in another promotion when I was under a different name, wearing a mask, and you were under a different name. It was a completely different story that has no attachment, that we can't even bring into this, because the story was that Killshot left Dante in the desert or something like that. They were like vets who were partners and friends and shit. They can't port that over into AEW. So, whatever. I don't know. Does Master P still own House of Glory? As far as I know, he does. As far as I know, he still owns House of Glory. They just had a big show recently, and I missed it. I wanted to watch it, and I missed it. Because I think the main event was Nick Aldis versus Jacob Fatu. I wanted to see that, but I'm not about to pay. What was it, $15 just to see that one match on that show? So you can forget it. Maybe I'll just wait them out, and that's a good thing about indie wrestling. These matches don't have any storylines attached to them or anything like that, so I can wait it out. Killer Mike World King Mike, I'm sorry. Someone needs to lock Tony Khan in a room and force him to watch WCW from 93 to 99 and tell them what to do what they did. He thinks he's better than that. That's the weird thing. He thinks that what he does is already better. That's the joke. He thinks that AEW is better than WCW was. I don't see. It's delusion, and so does his fan base. They think it is too. It says Hater still feels like a lackey. Yeah, because she doesn't talk. Britt Baker does all the fucking talking. So, yeah, of course she feels like a lackey because she's been a lackey for 2 years. And I still don't know why she's over. What she's over for doing. Well, she's been having good matches. Like, well, fuck. If you give every woman on the roster the same amount of time, with the exception of Athena, you could probably get all of them over just from having good matches. Good matches is not a reason to be over. I don't know. Like, working stiff, I think might be it. Because working stiff is a good reason to be over. Because you're willing to hit and get hit. And there's something special about somebody who's willing to lay the leather in, especially in today's wrestling market where everybody's so fucking soft and they'd rather miss by 100 miles than hit you by mistake or some shit. So, I don't know, but all I know is the girl ain't really all that special to me. We're going to go for a couple more minutes. I hate drinking pop. Ugh. That shit burns. I'm drinking a Burners, by the way. But I gotta bust up all them carbs, man. Eating all that mozzarella, that shit fucking me up. But oof, I need some water for sure. My mouth dry as hell not drinking that damn pop. Leith LD says, "Am I a good swimmer?" No, I haven't swam since I almost drowned in the YMCA pool, and I was like 10. I almost drowned twice. I almost drowned in Metro Beach. I simply swam out too far, and I panicked when I didn't feel the ground under my feet anymore, so I almost drowned in. Some stranger saved me at that point. He wasn't a lifeguard. He was just like a random guy just grabbed me because I had gone out too far. I almost died. I'd have been like 12 when that happened. And I almost died in the YMCA because a lifeguard pushed me into the pool, pushed me into the deep end, because it was like, you need to learn how to swim, and they had everybody lined up on there, and she just pushed somebody in at random, and it was me. And like, as soon as my feet touched the bottom of that deep end, I panicked. I freaked the fuck out. And I think I probably even fainted. And she had to pull my big ass out of that damn deep end, man. I was, no, absolutely not. I cannot swim. So now if I have to get in a pool or something like that, I'm hugging the corners. I'm not, nah. I've tried to swim though. I'm gonna maybe I'll get into it at like my older age or something like that. I'll get into swimming, but not right now. No. Have I piloted a plane or any aircraft? No. Well, a remote controlled airplane. I had a remote controlled airplane. That bitch was like a kite or something like that. Yeah, she tried to kill me, bro. It was some bullshit. Every time I tell somebody, people that story, they don't believe me. They don't believe a lifeguard would actually push you into the water like that. But she did. You know, it was a swimming class, and she had everybody stand, and we thought we were all going to dive in like you see on the Olympics or some shit. Like everybody's going to dive in and swim. She was like, nope, and just shoved, a couple of people in at random, and I was one of them, and I freaked out. I wasn't ready for it. Shit came out of nowhere. I left. I didn't come back either. I never went back to that swimming class. That was some bullshit right there. I don't even remember if she had to save the other students or not. I know she had to save my ass, that's for sure. And I didn't go back. I didn't tell nobody about that either. That would definitely be something I would have told my mom. I should have told my mom about, but I didn't. I didn't want to go to jail, beat up that damn lifeguard. That'd have been sad as hell. Mom would have marched up to the YMCA to beat up that lady. She probably would have did it though, but I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell any adults about it. I told my friends, but that was about it. Cause I was like, no, I ain't going back there. No. She pushing niggas into the pool while they not ready. No. She didn't even say, are you, get ready or nothing. She just pushed. Did I watch the Shinsuke Nakamura Great Muta match? No, I missed it. I tried to get up in time to try to bootleg it, but if it pops up on one of the bootleg sites that I'll use, I'll probably watch it, but I didn't see it. I heard it was pretty good, though. Then I also heard that Nakamura kissed Muta during this match or something like that, which was not a good idea, I don't think. Where do I want to travel? Asia, Africa, or Europe? Well, I want to go to Japan. I also want to go to Ghana. And I also wanted to go to Paris. And then I seen pictures of Paris, and I was like, no way. Paris looks like shit now. And London looks like shit too. So, so I don't know. So it's difficult, but I definitely want to go to Japan. I'm a big enough fan of Japan, like manga and anime and stuff like that. I definitely want to go to Japan. And I know I want to go to Japan because I do want to attend Wrestle Kingdom. I do want to do that. I am a big enough work rate guy that I do want to go to Wrestle Kingdom. I saw what was that YouTuber Geekdom 101? He went to Wrestle Kingdom one year. And I was just like, man, that was fun as fuck. He always he goes to Japan. Dragon Ball YouTuber. And I was just like, man, that seemed like that's not something on my bucket list. Like one of my bucket list things would be go to WrestleMania somewhere that's not in Detroit. Like if I go to WrestleMania in New York or something like that, that would be something on my bucket list. But being able to go to like Japan for like a big wrestling event, that would be something I wouldn't even conceive of, because I don't care that much about Japanese wrestling. And if I were to go to Japan, it wouldn't be during a wrestling season. It wouldn't be that. It would just be me trying to go to tourist spots. But then I thought about it and I said to myself, you know what? If I was going to go to Japan, that would be a good reason to go to Japan. It would be to go to Japan to go to a wrestling show. But what would the tickets be like? How would I put that together? How much time would I need to put that, to plan that whole thing? To be able to get on the flight, go out there, and do that. That's something to think about. Maybe I gotta find some other ways of earning money. Need more revenue streams. Speaking of which, I think I'm going to monetize the channel. I was really putting some thought into that. And I was kind of like, I like the freedom of, not having to worry about videos being monetized or anything like that. But at the same time, I put enough effort into the channel that I think I probably should monetize some of the videos I do. I said I was going to make it a decision on that on the 1st, and today is the 1st. So maybe by tomorrow I'm gonna either start monetizing the videos or not. But if I start monetizing the videos, I'm definitely gonna have to change how I talk about certain subjects. And that's a good reason to not do it. You know, it's a good enough reason to not do it. You know, but I already get myself into some trouble. But I also think that if I monetize the channel, it'll actually get boosted. You know, probably get more followers, more subscribers and stuff. I don't know, something to think about. I'll make the decision in the morning. But I think I will though. But I think I will though. Cause I've been really putting it I've been putting it off because I like I said I like the freedom of not having to argue with YouTube about the monetizations or anything like that. But I also just want to get paid. So I don't know. I may start doing that. I also missed out on. I probably should talk about this. Is I usually do my investments at the beginning of the year, the beginning of every year. I that's the only time I look at my stocks. Is I look at my stock at the beginning of the year, and then I just buy more stock. You know. And I was thinking about what I should buy stock in, but I also didn't do that today like I was supposed to, because I was watching fucking Star Trek all day, so I missed out. So I spent all year looking at what I should invest in, and I think I want to invest in Tesla. And this is not stock advice, I'm just saying. And I was like, well, I could go buy a couple of shares of Tesla, not many, just so I could diversify and have that in my portfolio. It's it ought to be interesting, but I managed to botch that by not doing my due diligence, not looking into the companies I was supposed to look into, and basically just getting wrapped up. And then I was sick for a week, so you know it was. I'm not gonna give myself any excuses. I'm gonna do it. It's probably just gonna have to get done tomorrow. All right, it's 10:45. I'm about to wrap it up, y'all. Thank everybody for coming out. I'm definitely gonna have to get some water before I go lay down. I gotta go to work in the morning. I appreciate everybody for coming out. Thank everybody for their time. Invest in solar. Solar. Certainly not solar cars. The only thing that's keeping me from investing in Tesla is how the media treats Elon Musk. You know, I think they would drag Tesla down, even though Tesla does electric cars, and that's what all the climate change, talking heads want. I truly don't think they want Elon Musk to win. Invest in solar energy. I'll try to look into a company that does solar panels. We'll see what's up with that. All right. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Happy New Year. Hopefully y'all are still off tomorrow, but since I got to go to work, I got to go. So peace out.